Greetings and welcome to this edition of Faith to Live By, a podcast where I seek to help us explore current world events from a biblical and prophetic perspective so we, as God's children, can know how He wants us to respond. We have many world events and news stories that are just breaking, newly identified events, and we have long-standing news events where new developments are surfacing. You know, it's not always easy to select what topics I'll cover, especially when so many things are happening at such a fever pitch as we're experiencing right now. But I have prayerfully determined our topics for today, believing them to be top-of-mind concerns for you. So, what I'll bring you today includes world news specific to President Trump's trip to Davos to speak before the World Economic Forum, putting the globalists on notice and setting forth his team's brilliant plans to make good on his campaign promises. I'll also bring news concerning President Trump's efforts to come to the aid of the Iranian people, requiring him to successfully negotiate with the failing Islamic Republic regime and allow the Iranian people to establish their own new government. I'll also bring evidence in support of how the globalists have been focused on devastating the United States, who is recognized as the greatest threat to their agenda. And I'll provide more detailed and surprising aspects of prophecies published by well-respected modern-day prophets that has actually shocked many people specific to the prophesied events and those whom God has specifically named. The ancient spiritual battle between good and evil is at a pitch the world has never before seen, and while it will be utterly horrifying to observe, with God's intervention, in the end, it will be wonderfully glorious to have gone through. So thank you for joining me and letting me be among those whose input you consider as I endeavor to become one of your most trusted truth advocates. With that, let's just get right to it, shall we? Last week, President Trump and his team arrived in Davos to speak before the World Economic Forum, fully prepared to let those who support one world government know what they actually refuse to believe, which is their agenda is failing. Susan Kokinda from Promethean Action, who along with her colleagues has studied the origin and progress of anti-human policies of the European Empire's globalist agenda, expertly summarizes the facts. Since I cannot explain any better than Susan Kokinda has, I ask you to give a listen to what Promethean Action posted last week.
Grow, baby, grow. That's the message Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent delivered at Davos. And it's the three words the global elite fear the most, because their entire system depends on managing decline. And Donald Trump and his team just invited the world to abandon the Davos model. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick wasted no time in landing the first punch.
We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it.
And then Donald Trump followed up a few hours ago, saying that many parts of the world are being destroyed by the failed model of foreign jobs, mass migration, and green insanity. But if you listen to the mainstream media on both sides of the pond, you would think that Canada's Mark Carney is the defender of all that is good and noble. Carney's speech portrayed the stalwart Canadians and Europeans as the force which is now standing up to the great power hegemon like the United States, which has wrecked their beautiful post-war order. But here's what they didn't mention while defending their rules-based order. Since 1989, this order has given us forever wars and regime changes that have killed millions. And it's given the West a demographic collapse due to drugs, depopulation, and deindustrialization. And as for human rights, don't forget that the native populations in both Greenland and Canada were targets of forced sterilization campaigns carried out by their governments, who, by the way, are both monarchies. In Greenland, this included girls as young as 13. And here's the final irony. Overlooking Davos this week was a massive display reading "No Kings." Now, you have to laugh because, as my friend Tom Luongo said, if they meant it, they'd start freeing Greenland from the Danish monarchy. But they don't mean it. They never do. Because Carney and von der Leyen aren't selling democracy. Their speeches at Davos were the opening ad campaigns for globalism light. The same depopulation and deindustrialization agenda, just put in a smaller box. So here's what I'm going to talk about today. First, how Donald Trump and his team delivered the Davos postmortem. Second, why Carney's globalism light is dead on arrival. And third, how Trump's policies are reversing death, depopulation, and deindustrialization. So let's start with the message the Trump team brought to Davos. It wasn't a negotiation, it was a reality check.
What we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF.
Lutnick delivered the what, but Treasury Secretary Bessent provided the why.
There's just a different mindset here, and I think the mindset has got to change. It's got to change to a growth mentality, and that's President Trump's invitation is we are growing, we're deregulating, and come and join us. We have identified the greatest financial risk as a lack of growth because post-COVID, every government balance sheet has ballooned, and we have this gigantic government debt. There are two ways. You can either cut your way out of it through austerity, no voter wants that, or you can grow your way out of it. So we are inviting the world, come grow with us, prosper with us, and we can all do it together.
What he's talking about is really the American system in action. Bessent is saying that industrial growth and a growing population are the foundations of an economy, not financial income streams. This is a reversal of the WEF globalist imperial policy, which only exists to feed powerful monopolies, whether it was the British East India Company 200 years ago or the global financial institutions based in London and Wall Street today. And for over 100 years, you've been denied the knowledge that there was an American system alternative to what we see today as globalism. Well, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer just delivered another bombshell at Davos in a speech entitled "The Hamiltonian Economic System That Too Many Have Forgotten." He laid out the uniquely American economic policy of Alexander Hamilton with stunning clarity, and we'll be covering that in more detail over the coming days, so make sure you're subscribed. Because what you're seeing out in the open on the stage at Davos is a clear example of two systems that have been in mortal combat since the American Revolution, a revolution which we're celebrating this year. The fight is not between communism and capitalism, but the American system versus the British imperial system. So if you are beginning to realize that the battlefield is a little different than the one you've been taught to fight on, you should head on over to Promethean Action and subscribe to our free newsletter. Because Trump and his team are delivering their powerful message to the world. We don't just want to grow and prosper alone. We want you to abandon the insanity and join us. Because everything that President Trump has done in his first year has been to grow, baby, grow, to unleash the productive power of America's workers and to throttle the power of the financier elite. But don't expect Carney and his friends to accept these offers. For the Davos crowd, this is an extinction-level event. Their entire power structure is based on feeding financial income streams by finding new sectors of the economy to loot and driving down living standards and population growth. So instead of accepting the invitation to grow, European elite are doubling down on managed decline in a downsized version. They call it regionalization. I call it globalism light. They want to link the European Union with the South American Common Market and other regional clusters to keep the Green New Deal and the Paris Accord alive. Mark Carney played his new role as the face of Globalism 2.0 to a T. He gave the tough love speech on behalf of the elites, declaring that the old order isn't transitioning, it's rupturing, and he left no doubt as to who was doing the rupturing.
Today I will talk about a rupture in the world order, the end of a pleasant fiction and the beginning of a harsh reality, where geopolitics, where the large main power geopolitics is submitted to no limits, no constraints.
It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must.
He made clear that it's really the United States and Russia who are the hegemons who must be contained. What is Carney's solution to the threat of these hegemons? The intermediate powers of the world, led by Canada and the EU, who will forge new regional blocs that will stand up to Trump's America. But there's only one problem. The policies of those regional blocs are the same failed policies that have propelled nations like the United States and Russia and Hungary and others to exit globalization so that they can actually grow and prosper. But that reality doesn't penetrate the thinking of these globalist sock puppets. Just listen to EU head Ursula von der Leyen proudly announcing the emergence of a new Europe and a new regional deal with South America.
This new Europe is already emerging. On Saturday, I was in Asunción, in Paraguay, to sign the EU-Mercosur trade agreement. It was a breakthrough after 25 years of negotiations. And with it, the European Union and Latin America have created the largest free trade zone in the world, a market worth over 20% of global GDP, 31 countries with over 700 million consumers aligned with the Paris Agreement.
Did you catch that? Their big new deal is just free trade plus the Paris Climate Accords. So they're taking the failed policies of globalism and shoving them into smaller regional packages. Those policies have not only failed, they're evil. And this is where the Greenland story exposes the lie. They strut around Davos claiming moral superiority against an unprincipled United States, but their system, the system of the British Crown and the other European empires repackaged as the EU, is anti-human to its core. Denmark's treatment of Greenland proves that their view of population hasn't changed. Whether it's forced sterilization or the deindustrialization of Germany or the suppression of economic development in Africa or endless wars in the Mideast and Europe, it's all the same. Less people, less growth, less life. Carney calls this a rupture. Well, he's right. It is a rupture from their system of death. And thank God Donald Trump came along to be the disruptor. The most profound contrast between Trump and Davos isn't just about trade or about Greenland. It's about what a society is for. The Davos model keeps populations under control, while the financier elite loots economies and living standards. The American system is focused on fostering physical growth. And the key to this is the growth of a productive, prosperous, middle and working class, a point which Trump's team came back to over and over again. And the day before he traveled to Davos, President Trump released his dramatic new initiative on housing, which really is a pillar for family formation and population growth. Here's what the president's new order says. Buying and owning a home has long been considered the pinnacle of the American dream, but a growing share of single-family homes have been purchased by large Wall Street investors, crowding out families. People live in homes, not corporations. My administration will take decisive action to stop Wall Street from treating America's neighborhoods like a trading floor. And as he pointed out at Davos, many of those Wall Street investors were right there in the audience. So what he is doing is really big. He is explicitly saying that large institutional investors should not buy single-family homes. Think about the difference. Davos wants you renting a little 800 square foot apartment and owning nothing. Trump wants you owning a home and building intergenerational wealth. And it's not just housing. Look at some of the other things that have emerged just in the past couple of weeks. Rural health. Last week, the administration announced the largest investment in rural health care in history. Dr. Oz motivated it by pointing out that mortality rates are 9 years lower in rural America than anywhere else. He announced with these new investments, quote, your zip code will no longer be your destiny. And then let's look at fentanyl. With Trump's actual border enforcement, the flow of this poison has been cut dramatically, and fentanyl deaths have fallen by approximately 20% over the last year. That's not just a statistic. That's thousands of young Americans who are alive today because of Trump's policies. So this is the choice. The Davos paradigm has always been about managing scarcity and reducing the population. And when people like Carney and von der Leyen speak about a new Europe or new agreements, they don't intend to change anything. They still see human beings as burdens on Mother Earth or cannon fodder for a free trade system. The American system and Donald Trump look at a human being and they see a creator. President Trump wants to build a future where your children are wealthier than you are and more numerous. The Trump team didn't go to Davos to give a speech. They went there to tell the old world that the age of imperial looting is over and that the new banner for the world is grow, baby, grow.
As you just heard, Trump didn't just attend Davos. He brought an army. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick opened by declaring, quote, globalism is finished. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was equally direct. Without exception, the message was clear. The American system of political economy is back, and the British imperial free trade globalist model is done. 3 additional points for moving forward we can learn from the 2026 World Economic Forum annual meeting include President Trump's Board of Peace changes everything. The real battle is the midterms, and the economy is booming, which the globalists don't want you to know. In upcoming podcasts, I will address these 3 points in more detail, but for today, I want to stay focused on significant news events at hand. So, I want to start with Iran and how, like the globalists' agenda, the evil Islamic Republic regime is also failing. You likely know how the Iranian people began protesting against their own government in December 2025 because of the very serious hardships they were suffering. In response to the citizens' protests, reports reveal since December 28, 2025, the government has killed thousands of brave Iranians and has raped and tortured countless others. In what has been called the Islamic Republic's Iranian massacre, over 43,000 Iran residents have been killed, over 1,000 hanged, over 10,000 blinded, and over 350,000 injured. Despite the harsh threats from the failing Iranian regime and from his own United States Congress, President Trump seeks to keep his promise to defend the Iranian people from this evil. Certainly never in our lifetimes, and perhaps in all the history of the United States, has there ever been a more courageous and determined president seeking what is good and right for people everywhere than President Trump. President Trump is working to fulfill his campaign promises, boldly standing against enemies who have tried and continue to try to see him killed. Speaking to the American people, President Trump famously said, "The globalists are coming after you, but I am standing in their way." And he knows, with him doing so, he risks his life every single day. Headlines of January 27th reveal Trump stating Iran has called him numerous times, seeking a deal as the United States carriers enter the Middle East. It seems President Trump's position of peace through strength is working wherever applied. However, I don't trust any agreements or commitments the Islamic Republic group makes. the Islamic Republic of Iran has demonstrated untrustworthiness by presiding over severe economic mismanagement, widespread corruption, and brutal suppression of dissent, resulting in high inflation and declining living standards for its citizens. The regime prioritizes its own survival, funding regional proxy wars, and enforcing strict social controls over addressing basic needs like food, fuel, and water. The Islamic Republic's proven economic mismanagement and corruption, brutal repression of dissent, prioritizing proxies over domestic needs, failure to meet basic needs, loss of public trust, incompetence, and neglect must all be addressed. President Trump has been clear he is against war and all loss of life. He has stopped at least 8 wars in the first year of his second term as president, and he openly supports the people of every nation to determine their own government. President Trump understands the importance of protecting the United States' image as a sovereign nation, able to defend itself, and also willing to help and defend our true allies. President Trump is successfully promoting world peace through strength. One of the displays of strength the Trump administration recently provided came through the Pentagon's recently released National Defense Strategy that notes President Trump took office during, quote, one of the most dangerous security environments in our nation's history, end quote, listing issues such as the border, narcoterrorism, and threats posed by China and the Middle East. The statement continued, quote, it is only prudent for the United States and its allies to be prepared for the possibility that one or more potential opponents might act together in a coordinated or opportunistic fashion across multiple theaters, end quote. The report continues. Such a scenario would be less of a concern if our allies and partners had spent recent decades investing adequately in their defenses, but they did not, end quote. The information in the National Defense Strategy and President Trump's personally stating that the United States has weapons nobody's even heard of are excellent comms to alert the world of the superior strength of the United States military. Couple that with Trump's bold, matter-of-fact deliverance when revealing his plans, and I, along with many other Americans, am very pleased to see our country regain footing and be respected on the world stage once again. We must pray for President Trump and his team to have an extraordinary discernment from God as they enter into any negotiations with those promoting evil outside the United States and when working with those promoting evil from within the United States. Prophetically, God has said we have evil infiltrators in most governments worldwide. Even so, God has promised He has already infiltrated the infiltrators, and as we see the failure of evil governments and agendas, we have every reason to rejoice. In addition to governments supporting and promoting evil, there are groups outside governments that have shockingly funded evil. Recently, according to the publication Israel 364, the Mormon Church gave $140.6 million to Hamas-linked Islamic NGOs. God had prophesied about the connections between Hamas and the Mormon Church in the recent past, which is now prophecy fulfilled. You can hear Amanda Grace addressing this using the link I've provided for you in the show notes. Certainly by now, enough people have to be awake to the fact that our own government leaders in support of the Obama-directed Biden administration have acted in tandem with the globalists to destroy America from within. They have paid, instructed, and empowered radical Muslims to destroy our nation and other nations that oppose the globalist agenda. Don't believe me? Well, take a listen to the National Executive Director for CARE in his presentation given in 2024 in his own words.
I have been given this strategic plan, framework for success for the Muslim community. And let's just think about it together in the next couple of minutes. We have almost 4,000 mosques in America. 4,000 mosques. 4,000 mosques. About 6 million people attend these 4,000 mosques every Friday. That's really the infrastructure of the Muslim community. The core of Muslim life in America is the largest number of mosques. Secondly, you have schools, social services, organizations, economic, social, political, and scientific organizations and businesses. However, how can we plan in 20 years for the Muslim community to be a celebrated community? So what's the plan? 4,000 mosques. I would like our community, the leadership here, after inshallah you build this mosque, unless you can do it at the same time, establish a scholarship fund on an annual basis. And just bear with me. Establish a scholarship on an annual basis to do the following: to offer scholarships for 5 students. 1, to study journalism. 2nd, to study filmmaking. 3rdly, to study law. 4th, political science. And 5th, history or humanity. Why? If we start in 2025 or 2026, depends on you, 4 years from now, 4,000 mosques in America, remember, 4,000 mosques. We will have, in 4 years, 4,000 new journalists, filmmakers, lawyers, history students who will become teachers, and students and graduates of political science. 20 years from now, if we keep doing it every year, 20 years from now, the Muslim community will have 50,000 attorneys, 50,000 journalists, 50,000 filmmakers, 50,000 professors of political science and history. If we do that, the Muslim community will write its own history. It will write its own narrative. It will tell the story of Islam and Muslims. It will make its own image. The Muslim community will have an impact in the news making and the impact in the news analysis. The Muslim community will be able to defend itself and defend others. The Muslim community will be able to produce policymakers and policy and lawmakers. If you are a lawyer, most likely you are qualified to be a lawmaker. The Muslim community today have 4 members of Congress and 47 state house or state senate legislators. MashaAllah. However, if we do this program, within 20 years from now, the Muslim community will have at least 50 members of Congress and may have at least 5 senators, and will have potentially a Supreme Court judge. And the Muslim community will not worry as it does now about Islamophobia. It takes leadership, and you don't have to solve the problem of the entire ummah. Solve the problem of 5 students from your own community, empower them, and give them a chance to be leaders. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who follow the guidance and follow the best of it. Allahumma ameen. My brothers and sisters, to conclude, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising us success. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to do the right priorities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not ask us about results. He's asking us about good work, sincere work. If you are sincere in what you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you success. For our community here in this area, alhamdulillah, Allah blessed us to create an organization called CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the organization that you know. My name is Nihad Awad. I'm the National Executive Director of this organization. It is designed, and the purpose of it is to inform the public about Islam, empower the American Muslim community socially and politically, and defend the rights of American Muslims free of charge. And CARE is not afraid to sue the US government. In fact, we did many times. The last time we sued our US beautiful government, we sued the FBI because the FBI has been surveilling American Muslims and created a watch list called the terrorism watch list, and has 1.2 million people on them, mainly Muslims here and around the world. And the Muslims who get harassed in airports or their bank accounts get closed and so on and so forth, they have an organization that defends them. And that list was created after 9/11. CAIR sued the FBI, and the FBI appealed 3 times, and they lost until it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And they expected that maybe since it's a conservative court, they may rule in their favor. You know what was the result? 9-0. 9-0 in favor of CAIR in defending the right of Muslims. That shows that our nation is still in good shape, but we need political and legal advocates to defend the rights of American Muslims, because if we are safe, we will succeed as Muslims. So I urge you to be part of this organization, to support it, and also, inshallah, learn about it. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who listen to the guidance and follow the best of it.
As you just heard, Nihad Awad, National Executive Director of CAIR, presented a step-by-step roadmap for a 20-year plan for building political, legal, and media dominance using American mosques as infrastructure nodes and CAIR as the enforcement arm. And make no mistake, when Nihad Awad speaks of having the right to defend Muslims, it's code for positioning Muslims to take over control. And did you catch him explaining when they sued the United States FBI, they had a 9-0 ruling? Do you know what that means? It means the 9 court justices are bought and paid for by the deep state. A couple of areas in the audio that were difficult to understand was when Awad said, and I may not properly pronounce the Muslim term, but when he said, quote, "I ask Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make us among those who follow the guidance and follow the best of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to do the right priorities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not ask us about results. He's asking us about good work, sincere work. If you are sincere in what you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you success." End quote. So I looked up the term Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I learned it is the Muslim term used to express profound reverence, respect, and to acknowledge the supreme majesty and divinity of Allah, the Muslim God, whenever his name is mentioned. People, please understand. The Muslim effort to gain control over non-Muslims is believed to be sanctioned, a sanctioned duty by their God. They are not interested in assimilating within other countries or cultures. They are focused on turning other countries into their own, governed by their own laws, customs, and religion. This duty is not one Muslims will readily or easily ever abandon. Despite the opposition President Trump has from globalists that are without and within his own administration, he is making strides to protect not only the United States from Muslim terrorists, but to help people of other nations protect themselves against terrorism of all kinds. Think Venezuela, Gaza, Iran, and very likely Cuba at present. Unlike the globalists who instigate endless wars, President Trump has demonstrated God's anointing for him to stop wars. In addition to the evil infiltration by the Muslim groups and their sympathizers, we learned this week as anti-ICE chaos continues in Minnesota, Obama is encouraging more protests against the law-enforcing efforts of the federal government. This chaos is intended to divert our attention from the realities of over $9 billion of our hard-earned tax dollars being fraudulently used, because they know that the actual fraud is far greater and across all the United States, which, if known, would seriously implicate the majority of those serving in Congress, which, by the way, God has addressed in the prophecy given through Julie Green, posted January 27th, and I'll be sharing a portion of that in just a bit. In support of God's promised intervention, before I share the prophecy focus for this week, I want to reference the prophecy I shared from Julie Green last week. If you heard the podcast, then you know prophetically God specifically called out Pam Bondi, Speaker Johnson, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Susan Wiles. If you didn't hear last week's podcast, you need to, so you are as prepared as possible for the otherwise shocking revelations ahead of us, assuming these prophecies are genuine. Specific to J.D. Vance, what I'm continuing to learn about him I will share in the weeks to come. However, I want to emphatically state I will never chase after seemingly sensational content for the sake of ratings. My entire goal before the Lord is to search out and to share truth so we, as God's people, can know what He wants us to know, and we can do what He wants us to do in partnership with Him to see His kingdom will done on earth as it is in heaven. This is what we want. We want righteousness to replace evil. And considering the exponential advancement of evil in our day, we must understand, as God intervenes and responds to our prayers for evil to be overcome, it will be utterly difficult to observe. As God is forewarned, it will get far worse before it gets better. One thing about J.D. Vance I can share at this time is after I posted last week's podcast for January 21st, I came across a prophecy posted on January 23rd by Dr. Patricia Green. It turns out Dr. Green also received prophetic download she believes was from God, specific to J.D. Vance and his true alliances. The prophecy Dr. Patricia Green received is entirely consistent with what Julie Green received that I shared last week. You can listen to Dr. Patricia Green's prophecy using the link in the show notes. As I've always said, all prophecy must be tested, and I must say, the fact that these two well-respected women who are known to receive legitimate prophecies from God both received the same warning gives me reason to take what they have said even more seriously. When I hear prophecy that is really difficult to accept, I hold it loosely. I pray over it. I ask the Lord to open my eyes and my ears to lead me into the truth of the matter. Because this prayer is entirely consistent with what God wants, He wants all people to know truth, I can be certain I will be given the answer. And when prophecies are given with very specific detail, it's only a matter of time before they are proven or disproven. In the meantime, our job must be to pray against anything that sets itself up against the will and the knowledge of God, or that would bring harm or devastation of any kind. We need to pray for people to choose to repent, knowing they will suffer natural consequences for their actions. However, by repenting, they will be restored into a right relation with God and escape the eternal consequences for refusing to repent. Now, with all I've shared so far in mind, I want you to listen to an excerpt from the prophetic word given by Julie Green on January 26, 2026, that also contains very specific details which God said is an urgent word. Julie shared, and I quote, "The Bilderbergs, get used to hearing this name. Everyone connected to them in your government will be forcibly removed out of every seat. The Bilderbergs have control over the puppets in D.C., and their money trails will lead straight to every traitor. The Bilderbergs are part of the secret societies and the groups that are controlling the direction of this nation. They pay for riots. They pay for disinformation. They pay for politicians to commit treason. They control your intelligence community. They control what other nations have done against the United States. They control your election. They have controlled your economy, your schools, your entertainment industry, and they've controlled many churches to lead Christians right where they want them. So you, my children, won't be a threat to their new world order. My children, the secret societies must be brought out into the open now to dismantle their establishment, their civil war that they are paying for and sabotaging against your president. The secret societies are behind the assassination attempts of your president, and they are still trying to get him now. There's a plot to kill your president in the works, and the wolves are about to attack. Pray now, my children. Pray for the protection of your president. Pray over what he eats. Pray over what he drinks. Pray over every place he goes that I direct his path. Pray over every form of transportation he takes. Pray because the wolves are getting closer and closer, and they are ready to strike. The globalists are pushing for this. They are demanding something happen now because their new world order is falling apart, and they know my David is not backing down, and they know he is not afraid. They know nothing will stop him unless they stop him first. My children, this is an urgent word for an imminent attack against my David. It's not if, but when. Your president needs you now more than ever. He needs you to be interceding. He needs you to help keep his arms up. He needs my prayer warriors to stand and fight against all these demonic attacks. This is urgent. There is an urgency to this word, an urgency, my children, to keep proclaiming life and not death, and every attack neutralized against him in your country. The globalists are after my son because of his defiance, and he stands against them. The globalists are moving in to use this weapon of mass destruction to release another deadly virus, just not a virus you are thinking of. The virus they brought here to overtake your nation is Islam. They are ready to use their army of mass destruction to destroy your nation from within. They are ready to cause more havoc in your weather. The storm you have seen in your nation was them using weather modifications to attack this nation and to cause death. This is urgent, my children, to pray against every type of attack. My church needs to keep standing against these demonic attacks that are against you in your nation. And arise, my children, arise. Use my name and arise. Use my authority. Arise and plead the blood of Jesus. It's urgent, so don't delay. Your prayers will stop your enemies in a major way, says the Lord of hosts. And now let me share a bit of the prophecy Julie Green posted on January 27th, 2026. Julie shared, and I quote, "Oh, my United States, death of America is on the hearts and the minds of so many across this world. So many who are in your own nation, in your own government, in your own court systems, in your own intelligence community, in Hollywood and the entertainment industry, and in the banking system of this nation. My children, a Wall Street crash is coming in a way never before seen. Wall Street will completely collapse. Are you ready? Not just financially, but are you prepared spiritually? Will you be afraid of what's coming and lean on your own understanding? Or will you come to me for wisdom in what to do during this time? All the major banks in this nation against me will collapse. The ones who have manipulated the stock market because of the Federal Reserve, they have enjoyed high interest rates to crush as many people as they can under this control. A massive leak is coming out of what the banks have been doing to collapse this nation financially. The housing bubble they created is about to rupture, and not to benefit your enemies. This time it is to crush their chokehold that they have upon you. Major credit card companies like Bank of America, Chase, Discover, Capital One, Wells Fargo, and Citibank, every one of them is hiding something they don't want the public to know about. They have been working with the Federal Reserve, the deep state, and the globalists for high interest rates to keep you running on a hamster wheel of debt you can never pay back, and it's to keep them controlling you. Mortgages are about to be hit in unprecedented ways. 1 minute, the banks own you, and the next, the debt will be wiped out like it never existed. Soon, my children, you will know what owning a home really is. I am freeing my children from payments and from this demonic system. Mortgage is a death grip. Yes, a death grip. Oh, my United States, not only is the IRS being dismantled, state taxes, property taxes will be too. Anything the deep state and the globalists subjected you to will soon disappear. Again, I say Wall Street will collapse. Martial law will be implemented and most of your government arrested for treason. Tribunals will be seen and death sentences will be handed down one right after the other. Guantanamo secrets will come out revealing how tribunals have been taking place without the world knowing, and those who have been executed, who still seem very much alive, will be explained, along with why these executions had to be done behind closed doors. All has been to keep civil war from breaking out in this nation. The Bidens' full story is coming out. So is Obama's, the Clintons, and all of Washington, the Wall Street fat cats, and the secret societies. When you see the markets fall like never before, that's me destroying your enemies. My children, if I did not intervene, their weapons of mass destruction would have been released and millions would have died. Your enemies are ready now to pick up the pace against this nation, and they are willing to do and say anything to stop my David and this country from moving forward to America's golden age. The war against you will become worse because it is drawing near to its end. Silver and gold and precious metals will continue to rise. Your enemies can no longer hold them back. They can no longer hold up their fake market. It is all exaggerated for them to gain more and to take out the United States at their will. Another attack is coming. Pray against it so your enemies cannot cause death to America as they want. My church, you are standing in the way of your enemy's new world order. Keep fighting. It's working. You're taking back more territory, and you're lessening your enemy's power and stopping their plans against you. Wake up, children of the Most High God. Keep commanding life. Keep calling down your enemies and watch them all fall in unprecedented ways, says the Lord of hosts. End quote. In response to all I have shared today, I strongly encourage you to become an active partner with God to see His kingdom will done on earth as it is in heaven. We are to be doers of the word and not merely hearers, right? Then I ask you to pray consistent with God's instructions in the prophetic words. And be sure to pray the 10 prayer points for President Trump Dr. Patricia Green posted. You'll find them listed on her YouTube page and also on my website page where the complete show notes for this podcast are posted. In closing today's podcast, consider this year of 2026 and how God has specifically said January would be a month of justice, February would be a month that is fierce, and March would be characterized by a roar. World events have certainly been set up making the characterizations of each month plausible. Everything is setting up for February to be fierce, and the roar for March makes me think of Jesus as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, which is a messianic title for Jesus Christ, symbolizing strength, majesty, courage, and victory. I think the reason God has identified March with a roar of victory is because of the specific intervention He has planned for the month of March. I'll explain more of why I am expecting specific events in March with next week's podcast. Until then, let's meditate on how God has graciously given us innumerable prophecies to prepare us for what I believe is not only ahead, but before us at this very time. He has instructed, no matter how horrible things appear, we are to remain focused on His promises and not the devastation we will see. God has promised, while it will be exceedingly difficult for us to observe, it will be wonderfully glorious for us to come through all that God has planned. Again, we'll explore more on this topic next week. Until then, please be sure to pray according to our call to action and share this podcast with as many people as you can for their benefit of knowing the truth and being aligned with God to receive His protection and provision during a time that God has promised to be exceedingly difficult to observe, yet wonderfully glorious to come through. Now I ask you to please listen to my closing announcements and to take advantage of the many goods and services I bring you in an effort to at least cover the costs of this podcast. If you like what you hear from me with this podcast, I highly recommend my book series, my award-winning blog, and consider signing up for my certificate course in apologetics. My aim with that course is to help people learn how not only to use apologetics to share truth with others, but to help Christian leaders incorporate apologetics into their respective ministries so more Christians are learning how to share their faith. You can learn more by using the link in the show notes. For now, I offer my weekly podcasts, my blog, and bi-monthly e-newsletter at no cost. And certainly I have hard costs associated with doing all I do. If you've been blessed by my work and would like to help my work reach others, why not consider partnering with me? For as little as $10 a month, you can become a partner. Then together we can reach even more people for Jesus. Simply visit my Pamela Christian Ministries homepage and then click on the Give button at the top menu bar. Or if you prefer, you can go directly to the Give page using the link in the show notes. To become a partner, you can use my PayPal or Venmo account, but you will also see other ways you can support my work on that page. Whether you choose to become a monthly partner, give a one-time donation, purchase my books and products from my web store, or support my affiliate sponsors, anything you can do to help me continue this work would be greatly appreciated. And as always, your prayers and telling others about me and my ministry work is much needed. When it comes to my selection of affiliate sponsors, I first look for Christian-owned and operated businesses, and I make a point of personally using the products or services so I can fully endorse them. I seek sponsors that offer products or services you can get via the internet worldwide, and I specifically consider what is common to most people universally. So you'll find health, beauty, and wellness products through Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack supplements and from QE Strong. Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack supplements are truly amazing and are available to my listeners for a 5% discount per purchase or a 10% discount for a monthly subscription using the promo code FTLB. You may have heard my interview with Rob Renee about QE Strong. Discover the benefits of quantum energy to overcome all sorts of ailments. Visit QEstrong.com and use the promo code FTLB at checkout to receive your discount. Then my newest affiliate I'm really excited to bring you is Q Streaming. That's CUE Streaming Television. People with United States addresses can get over 3,000 channels, including live TV with streaming television without a contract. Get all of your local networks and favorite movie and sports and pay-per-view channels for about half of what cable costs. See the video promo link in the show notes to learn more. Affiliate sponsors only provide financial support to me when you purchase what they offer. So before you support Amazon or any other retailer, if I offer what you're looking for, please purchase through me. When it comes to special occasions, birthdays, or Christmas gifts, consider my books, jewelry, CDs, and more from my web store or any of the affiliate goods and services I offer. When you purchase from my web store, be sure to use the promo code TRUTH, TRUTH, to receive a 20% discount. Again, you'll find all the links in the show notes. If you like the content and resource material I bring you with this podcast, you'll find much more by connecting with me through my blog. In fact, my blog has been awarded 2 unsolicited awards for Christian content. And I'm also very active on social media. I can cover much more on social media than I can with this weekly podcast. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to my complimentary bi-monthly e-newsletter. I offer encouragement, special offers, and one of my signature recipes with each and every edition. Yep, I'm a foodie and I love to entertain, which is why Faith, Family, Friends, and Food is a bonus segment of my bi-monthly e-newsletter. To receive even more, please be sure to check out my dedicated podcast listeners page, Beyond the Podcast. Here's where we can connect exclusively and you can download complimentary devotionals, resources, and more. On that page, I also ask you to help me learn more about you and what you want by completing the form visible once you scroll down that page. And something that is very easy for you to do and would mean a lot to me is for you to rate, subscribe, or comment on this podcast according to what your preferred listening platform allows. You know how it works. The more likes and subscriptions to this podcast, the more opportunity we have to expand the listening audience. And that means we can reach more people with the gospel message of Jesus while helping people learn how to better apply their Christian faith. I hope you'll join me next week and tell your friends and family to listen right here on Faith to Live By, where we learn how to gain spiritual victory over life's issues. Until next week, I'm Pam Christian, asking you to remember Christ died for us. The least we can do is live for Him.